everyone! I feel like it's been a little while since I did a DIY project for one of my pets, so what better day than today to do one. I've been seeing these faux sheepskin rugs that have like a little bit of foam on the inside so that it's like kind of squishier, and it's supposed to be a dog bed, but it's disguised as a little rug for your floor. So I'm going to show you guys how to make one of those today. So let's get started. You'll need some 1-inch foam, furry fabric. You could also use a faux sheepskin rug here if you want to make it even easier. Non-skid fabric, a marker, scissors, a sewing machine, needle and thread, and pins. If you're using a faux sheepskin rug, you can use that to base the pattern off of, but I had fabric, so I just had to eyeball the pattern myself. I laid out the foam and drew out the shape of the rug. I went with the kind of natural shape, I guess. I'm also trying to make this rug as big as possible because it's going to be for my 80-pound dog. When drawing the pattern, I did just one side because after cutting it out, I could fold the foam over and then trace the pattern onto the other side and then cut. So then it's a perfect, or almost perfect, mirrored shape. This foam is thin enough that it's easy to cut with scissors, so you don't really need to use like an X-Acto knife or something like that to cut it. When I had all of that cut out, I laid out my non-skid fabric, laid the foam on top, and traced around, giving myself a seam allowance of about 1/4 of an inch, and then I cut that out. Next, I laid out my fur. Ideally, I would have had the fur run from the top to the bottom to mimic a real sheepskin rug, but I didn't have enough of the fabric to cut it that way, so I had to make do. The fur ends up running from side to side, but oh well. So with the seam allowance on this piece, keep in mind that you have to have enough to wrap around the sides of the foam as well. So I eyeballed the seam allowance of about 1 1/4 inch, and then I cut that out. This fur that I have is pretty cheap, so it was really see-through when I put it on the foam. You could see the green through. So I ended up cutting some extra fabric just to back the fur to hide the foam. If I had bought foam that was like a tan color or white or whatever, then I could have skipped this. Then I pinned the pieces together, right sides touching. Now, since the fur fabric is a bit bigger than the non-skid fabric, I had to pin it strategically to make sure that it would go together correctly. To start, I pinned all of the, I guess you could say, high points together, and then I just slowly worked my way around, pleating the faux fur fabric and pinning it wherever it started to bunch up. This sounds a little more complicated than it really is. You just want to do it this way because if you just start at one point and then go along pinning it like taut, then it's going to shift and look all funky and not match up, and yeah. Once that was all done, I sewed it up, leaving a hole in the side. I flipped it right side out, and you can see how it's coming together. From here, I tried to stuff the foam in, but it was being a pain, so I decided to flip it back inside out, place the foam on top, and then flip it right sides out, keeping the foam in place. Eventually, this method worked. I pinned the hole up, sewed it, and then it was done. Now I have a cute little rug that doesn't necessarily immediately look like a pet bed, but is nice and soft and cushy for them to lay on. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, all of that good stuff. Here's this week's featured project. If you want your stuff featured, then go use the hashtag #CheslinDIY on Instagram or Twitter, and you'll have a chance of having your stuff featured here. If you want to follow me on any of my social media, the links to those will be down below. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please leave a comment down below, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much to my patrons for helping me produce this video. If you like my videos and have learned something from them, please consider supporting me on Patreon to help me continue to make them. It's totally optional. I'll still be making videos either way. It just helps me be able to put out better stuff. A link will be down below, or you can just click up here in the corner.